the smell of it, I feel like I have to shower. I instantly can go into gag reflex and headache, and I'm just sick to my stomach.
Odor. The smells that are around us all day, every day. The ones we've become used to, and the ones that are so pungent we cannot ignore them. The question is, does odor pose an actual health concern, or is it just an annoying smell? Welcome back to What's That Smell, the podcast where we nosedive into the landscape of aromas that make up the smelly state of Iowa. Last episode, we unpacked odors in our communities and homes. Today, we'll look at how it affects our bodies, and in the next episode, we'll turn the tables on speaking out rather than keeping quiet. So take a deep breath and plug your nose for this week. The effect of outside odors on our mind, body, and spirit. Flash back to last episode. We talked about what odor is, how to combat it in our homes, and the study currently monitoring odor in Des Moines. One conclusion is to complain, and the other is to buy an air purifier. Or multiple.
I think that's the key thing. And just accepting that you're going to have one in each room and you're going to have to pay for the filters. But sadly, that's the cost of living in a new world where maybe the air is not as good as it once used to be.
But real talk. Buying multiple air purifiers for an annoying smell is one thing, but what if the smells in your homes and communities are actually affecting your mental and physical health? That's what we're going to explore today. First, we'll talk about common symptoms associated with odor and then how it works in our bodies. Throughout the episode, we'll hear how a member of our community has been affected. Okay, so starting with symptoms. According to a paper at the Air and Waste Management Association's annual meeting from 1999, 1999, that's where I could actually find some information. It was written by Michael and Charles McKinley, entitled The Gray Line Between Odor Nuisance and Health Effects. They talk about non-specific symptoms that are present for those living in areas with water treatment plants, hazardous waste, agricultural, and industrial sites. Non-specific symptoms are not specifically associated with the condition, and it's really difficult to observe and even harder to track where they come from. These symptoms include headaches, nausea, fatigue, disturbed sleep, loss of focus, stress responses, eye and throat irritation, shortness of breath, and digestive issues. Let's pause for a second. I am in no way saying the headaches you experience are because of odor, but it's a possibility. To better understand what these symptoms are like, let's hear from someone in our own backyard. Tracy Wilson is from Colfax, Iowa. She experiences some of these almost daily.
It's like certain smells that get me, and when it happens, I can get an instant headache. I can start to feel like my stomach is starting to knot up. Like I feel like I could start gagging, kind of a thing.
Tracy says she's felt a lot of embarrassment with her symptoms and that she tries to hide it quite frequently, but it's impossible for her to ignore.
It's really hard. This is where I was afraid, you might think I'm weird, because even my siblings, some of them think I'm being ridiculous, and then they try and test me, and then I start gagging. Sometimes I've thrown up, and then I found out one time my neighbor up the road, she's like the same way, and I'm like, so there is more people than me when it comes to this.
So these symptoms are real. When you pass a farm, maybe you get a sick feeling, or smelling whiteboard markers gives you a headache, or when you smell rain, you get sad. But how does simply smelling something produce these symptoms? As humans, smells have substantial influences on our cognitive and behavioral processes. The connection of our nose to the rest of our body is more powerful than we think. Of all our senses, smell is the most complex and unique in structure and organization. The olfactory system, our sensory system of smell, contributes to 80% of flavor sensations when we eat, which is why as a kid we used to plug our nose to get rid of the taste of broccoli. Even smells that are supposed to be good affect us.
There are certain perfumes that instant headache, or like a smell of a candle. Certain candles, I'm very picky with that kind of stuff. I can't go into a place like Bath and Beyond. I can't go into places like that. It's just too much for me. Um, Headache can get into a migraine.
So how does it work? In 500 milliseconds. Without using a bunch of nerdy science terms, basically, when you breathe, air is pulled through your nostrils to the back of your nose that traps it in mucus and dissolves it. The dissolved smell then creates responses in a bunch of systems that ends up with us recalling memories with that smell, behaving a certain way like putting our shirt over our nose, identifying the smell, and many, many others. Yet, not a lot of research has been done. Sounds like a common theme of odor in Iowa. Speaking of Iowa specifically, a health study from 1997 found that Iowa residents near a large-scale swine operation experienced higher rates of headaches, nausea, respiratory problems, irritated eyes, nose, and throat. What were the results of the study, though? No one knows. The study is quoted in some articles, but through my extensive Google search, there's no record of anything being done because of it. Why is this the case? First and last episode, with nothing being done after a study found significant odors, to now nothing being done again, but this time with human health. It seems like a lot of the people who can do something about odor have not, making the majority of Iowa citizens ignore it as well. How does this translate into our daily life? Or does it at all? For Tracy, its effects are enough to make her feel crazy.
When you do, like, say, for instance, you go to McDonald's and the cashier or the person waiting on you is chomping on gum, it just is a very, or or like I said, waiting or at Walmart, they're bringing your stuff through, and then it's almost like, okay, this is going to sound really crazy, but it's just like they're touching your stuff that they had gum on, or they touch their mouth, they put the gum in their mouth, and then they're touching your stuff, and then it's like, I feel like it's all contaminated because of the smell, and I don't know. It gets crazy.
The symptoms we've talked about, headaches, nausea, fatigue, disturbed sleep, loss of focus, stress responses, eye and throat irritation, shortness of breath, and digestive issues you or a loved one is experiencing for no apparent reason could be a result of odor. That's not something to ignore. Not anymore, at least. Through Tracy's experience, we know that symptoms are real, and it's easy to feel alone when odor's effects aren't being researched or they're simply not for the public. And there's a bigger question here. It's more of a spiritual well-being thing. How does it harm us when our government systems aren't taking care of our basic needs? Some people get angry, some feel alone, some get sick. So, what are we to do to support each other if our leaders seem like they're unwilling to? We can complain to help Dalton Jacobus's odor study, like we talked about in last episode. We can share our personal stories with one another, and we ourselves can be educated on the process of odor entering our bodies. That's just a start. There's a lot to do to fight against odor's invisible grip on Iowa, and it starts with learning about our fellow neighbors. Next episode, we will break the silence of smell, taking odor from our noses into the open air.